So again, when the bell rings at 5:30 in the morning, it's to bring you here to what's called the garden platform for satsanga. It's called the garden platform because back in the night we started here in '68 when 10 people would come, and into the 1970s 30 or 40 people would come. We grew our own lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumber. Right underneath there, there's these stone boxes full of compost, so we could grow our own stuff. That's why it's called the garden platform. But now we get over 250, 300 people here, one salad, and we have to wait a month for the next one. So now we buy our lettuce, we don't grow it. Plus we needed a place that had a roof on it in case it was raining, which it does here sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't rain for a month, sometimes it rains every day for a week, you never know. But we come for satsanga. So a sangha is a group of people that get to come together for a common purpose. So if you're in a book club or a bowling team, that's your bowling sangha or your book sangha. We come for satsanga. The goal of yoga is to find our real self, right? So we come and we sit and we try to find our real self in 3 different ways at satsanga. The first way is, we got an appointment? We're going to.
No, she has to.
You're going for a massage.
11. The positive mind.
11:30. I'm going to be right there. I'll drop you right off.
Okay.
You'll be right dropped off at the right place at the right time. So, but you have to know about satsang. So first we sit and meditate. That's called Raja Yoga. We try to stop the tossing of the mind. If you stop the tossing of the mind, maybe you can find out who you really are. Then we do Bhakti Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga is chanting here called Kirtan. Now, when I got here back in 1982, when I heard Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, I thought someone was going to shave my head, put me in an orange dress, and send me to the Cleveland airport with a tambourine and a box of Bhagavad Gitas, because the only Hare Rama I ever heard was the Hare Krishnas. I got really afraid, so I tried to get out of here really fast, because they said, I don't want to go to the Cleveland airport in an orange dress with a box of Bhagavad Gitas, that's not me. But I didn't have enough money to change my ticket. So I'm still here, you're stuck with me. But now once a week I get to lead Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, and I like it. But it took me a few years to catch on to that. So a lot of the stuff that you're doing here might be new to you. But that is called Bhakti Yoga, chanting. It's to open your heart. By opening your mouth, you open your heart. And then one of our swamis or brahmacharyas will lead us in Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the yoga of the intellect. So they read from a great sage and they try to explain how we can find our real self using our intellect. So those are the 3 main parts of satsang. After that, our Indian priest comes. Now our priest is a Nambudri priest from India. He'll be leading the puja on the tennis court tonight. But we are asked to stand up and sing arati. And over in the left-hand corner, you can't see it now, but there's an altar there with 28 different statues. Now, so we sing Jaya Jayarati. And then we sing names that you might have heard of, like Jesus, Moses, Buddha, Muhammad. You might have heard of those guys. But you probably didn't hear Seni Shoraya and Adityaya. But they're all supposed to be beings of light who have come before us to show us the way, to show us that we are also beings of light or spiritual beings ourselves. So after we finish that, then the priest will turn to us, and he's very short, and he has short arms, and the people in the front row are usually very tall, and he holds that lump over his head and he waves it like this. And when he's waving it like this, if you can see the light, you try to get your fingers around the flame from a distance and bring it over your eyes and forehead. And then that's to awaken your own inner light. I just tell you all this stuff because if I didn't tell you, you'd just be in there and say, what's all this sitting down, turning around and all of that? Now something happens. When you got your hands over your eyes like hide and seek, you take your hands down and everybody else has disappeared. You know where they went? They're bowing, they're hiding on you. So the idea is they're bowing towards to the front, where there's a picture of Krishna, there's a picture of Swami Shivananda, and it's part of Bhakti Yoga is to bow down. Now, you might not want to bow down to anybody that's outside you, but you know what? If you touch your forehead to the ground, you don't see anything, so maybe you could bow down to your own inner light. And if it's too weird for you to bow down, you don't have to bow down, all right? But that's the protocol here. Now, then after that, it's over, and at each door, there's someone standing with a tray of usually fruit. Tonight, because it's a special puja, it'll be some other kind of coconut balls or some kind of sweet thing. But on the way out, to double your blessings, double your fun, you take a piece of fruit on the way out. So say it's bananas, you're allergic to bananas, or you're fasting, instead of just walking by and saying, no thanks, you just touch the tray, touch your forehead, and you still get the blessings. From my point of view, anyone wants to offer you a blessing, why not take it? You could be an atheist. You sneeze, someone says, God bless you, hardly any other. Don't bless me, I'm an atheist. You know, if there's a blessing around, who knows? It might be a good thing. So So that is called satsanga, and usually it's here at 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Listen for announcements or look at the board to see what day the silent walk is. And tonight we have a special puja. So let's come down to the next. On the statue, and I'll explain.
Okay, make sure you take your shoes off, please. Sorry.
Now, for those in the positive thinking course, this is where the inauguration is going to be at 11:30, so you could stay behind when I'm finished in here. I think this is where it is, usually where it is. So a lot of people are, this is such an Indian ashram with statues and pictures of Hanuman on our bookstore and pujas like we're going to have tonight. So many people are worried that we're trying to convert people into Hindus, to become Hindus. But you know what? I got some good news and bad news. Same news. You cannot be converted to be a Hindu. No way. Have you ever had a Hindu come knock on your door like the Jehovah's Witnesses or the who's those other guys that come and see me? The Mormons from Utah come to my house. A Hindu has never knocked on your door and said, can I come in and read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? Will you come down to the Hindu temple for Navaratri tonight? They don't do it. They have 1 billion Hindus. They don't need any more. Where they're trying to get rid of Hindus. They send them all, or they send them to Toronto, San Francisco, Los Angeles. They're trying to get rid of Hindus. No, that's not. But you cannot convert to Hinduism. For Hindus, there's only one God. And that God has the name Ishvara or Brahman. For Christians, Jews, there's one God called God, God. For Muslims, there's one infinite God called Allah. Everybody that believes in one God says God is infinite. But Indians say, how does my finite mind comprehend the infinite? I'll be out of here in time, don't worry. I'll be out of here in time. I know, 11:30, right? Yeah. I got 4 minutes and 32 seconds, 4 minutes and 31 seconds. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll be out. Don't worry. All right. Anyway, this place runs like a clock. So, this, why Hindus don't have to convert anybody, because yogis say the reason we're here is to find our connection with the divine, to find our true self. This is called Vana Durga Temple. Now Vana Durga would be, we saw 28 statues over there, this is number 29. So isn't that 29 different gods and goddesses? No, they are called Devis and Devas, qualities of the divine. So where I live in Aylmer, Quebec, every Sunday we have a traffic jam going through our town. Everyone is going to the Gatineau National Park because people want to go walk in the forest or sit in the forest. Why? Because they're all atheists, they don't go to church anymore? No, because for many of us, to sit in the forest can bring us inwards and upwards and get us more in touch with the infinite. So why Hindus do not have to convert anybody, because if you found your own path, your own road to the divine, be that the Jesus road, the Moses road, the Buddha road, the Muhammad road, as far as they're concerned, who are they to tell you that you're on the wrong path, right? So if you go sit in the forest and you are on the Vana Durga path, that the energy in the forest connects you with the divine, that's fine for them. They are very open until you have to find your own road to divine. If you found it, they're not going to change your road. They're not saying you can only go on the Vana Durga road or the Krishna road or the Shiva road to get to the divine. That's not the way it works. So that's why Hindus don't need to convert anybody. So don't worry, even you're doing all singing in Sanskrit and going to Hindu ceremonies, don't worry, you're not going to lose your own religion. Our guru, the Swami Vishnu, was called the Flying Swami. He'd fly to anywhere in the world in his airplane where people were fighting about the names of the divine. You know, the infinite, you know, is there only one name for the infinite? People have many names for the infinite. We shouldn't fight over the names of the infinite. So we have to get out of here because the positive thinking people positively want to get in here. So we're going to continue circle around. If you're a positive thinker, you're going to stay here and think positive thoughts while we're gone. And then you could come on the rest of the tour tomorrow, because they do this at every day. But on the way out, if you like to go to the forest and sit there, you're going to all circle around that way. You might just want to bring your hands together and give a little bow to Vana Durga, who represents that connection to the divine through the energy in the forest, and then we'll go to our next song. Oh, come on up, because you can help me. I was just in Boston visiting my 94-year-old mother and my old friends. They came to me, and I think they speak a Native American language in Boston. So whenever people in Boston saw me, they would say this, "Hi, Hawaii. Hi, Hawaii." I don't know what that means. But here we don't say "Hi, Hawaii." You're going to hear all the time, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Now, why the heck do we say that? Well, there's a mystical mountain. Come on through. Or you could. Yeah, I mean, I could. You can come. Om Namah Shivaya. See? You know. All right. So, there's a mystical mountain in India called Mount Kailash. It's a real mountain. You could mountain climb it, walk around it. But there in the mystical part sits Shiva and Shakti, or Shiva and Parvati, the divine father and the divine mother. And because it's a mystical mountain, time and space don't matter. So one day, Parvati looks over the edge of Mount Kailash, right down to the Haymarket in Boston, Massachusetts. And what does she see there? She sees everybody, the same as in your town, have a Starbucks coffee cup in one hand, and in the other hand an iPhone. And she says, make a passage here, someone's trying to escape. They're trying to escape before they have to come back on the tour a second time. All right. And she says, wow, people have forgotten that they're divine beings. They think the meaning of life is not to spill their coffee onto their iPhone. So she has to wake up Shiva. Shiva's always meditating. And she said, Shiva looked down there to Haymarket in Boston, Massachusetts, and he looks down and a tear comes out of his eyes because he's so sad that his children have forgotten that they're divine beings. That's us. So Parvati says to him, you're all-knowing, you're all-compassionate. Could you explain to our children how to connect their Starbucks drinking coffee selves with their real divine self? So Shiva starts giving a discourse. He gives a talk. Yoga means to connect. What are we connecting? We're connecting with who we think we are, with our divine self. So that the yoga is to connect ourselves. So the reason we say Om Namah Shivaya is because Shiva gave us yoga to connect our everyday selves with our divine selves. So when we say Om Namah Shivaya, we're saying the yogi or the seeker in me greets the yogi or the seeker in you. I forgot to tell you about the colors. A lot of people want to know, how come yellow and white? You see all these people, yellow and white. Yellow means aspiration, so we're aspiring to be closer to our divine selves here. White means purity. So in order to get to be your divine self, you have to do something. You know, you might decide I'm overweight and you can lie on your couch, watch TV, and eat potato chips all of the time, but you aspire to be in better shape and thinner. But unless you get off the couch and stop eating potato chips, that aspiration will not be done. So here we have to do something to purify our body and mind, so that's why white. Now you're going to see people in bright orange here, and they are on swamis. They are in orange because they are on fire. They have something called mamak shukta, which is a burning desire for liberation. That means that they are spending all of their time to find their divine self. They're monks. They're taken 3 vows: chastity, poverty, and obedience, so they are not distracted from looking for God all of the time. So they're monks, but again, it turns out we have 6 monks here. One right now is a Hindu, the other 5 are Jewish. So you cannot, even our monks belong to a Hindu order of monks, but they can't become Hindus. They're still Jewish. But you don't have to be Jewish to be a Swami. You don't have to be Hindu to be a Swami. Anybody could become a Swami if they want to dedicate their life to that lifestyle. So let's continue on down. Start to wane by being here, eating the diet here. So luckily you can go through that door, take a sharp left, and there's a rack of potato chips and chocolate bars. Your health can be restored in no time. I understand there's other stuff in there, like you can get a kale smoothie or something, but who would get one of those? I don't know. But I've given up potato chips for Lent, so I don't know what I'm going to get in there anymore. So when you came all the way from Canada, Ontario, you know what? You walk right by this place because you came with your snowshoes and your long johns and your toque, right? So you just want to get into your bathing suit because it's a little warmer here than Canada, Ontario. So you walk right by our welcome fountain, but there's Buddha there. There's Jesus and Mary. There on that black thing on the right, that's a Shiva lingam. That's a very Hindu symbol. And then in the back, for the people from Canada, Ontario, there's an Anukshukta. And when you live in a place where you have to go in snowshoes all of the time, that's the northern sign of the divine as well. So people from all religions are welcome here.
Yeah. Hello. I was just wondering, are either Liz or Tara who are taking the positive thinking course in this group?
We already dropped them off. I was
Okay.
just there, and we left them off. The positive thinkers and the high yoga massage people.
Wonderful.
Anyone still here? No, I think we were just through there when we dropped them all.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to go into the most on the sidewalk here, sitting in the curb stove. Now this is called the main temple. The reason we're not using the main temple now, just sit down somewhere, don't stand there. Give me the
May I sit here?
No, don't sit there, Kevin.
Here.
Kevin, no, that's in the hole. Wouldn't sit on there. The reason we're not using this right now is because it only holds 140 people, and we have 240 people here, we just can't fit. But if you ever want to find a place with very strong energy for meditation, if there's nothing going on here, in the back up there, there's some racks with some cushions and pillows. I'm going to tell you, you should set your cushion and pillow right here to meditate now, and I'll let you know why during this talk now. So, this is called Shivananda Yoga Retreat. This is a picture of Shivananda. He never came to the West. In India, he's considered a saint. In 1957, he sent this guy, who was much younger with dark black hair, short hair, to the West. He gave him 10 rupees, which was $1.40, and said, go to the West, people are waiting. And he happened to be the Hatha Yoga professor at the Shivananda Yoga Ashram in Divine Life Society in Rishikesh in India. He was a barefoot young monk. And now, if you're in New York and you see someone walk by with a yoga mat on their shoulder, you say, there's a yogi going to do yoga. But if you're in India and you see someone walking by with a yoga mat on their shoulder, you say, oh, that's an American or Canadian. Because that kind of yoga is not really that big in India. There's a lot of Westerners go to practice yoga in India because sometimes they think it's going to be more authentic there. But Hatha yoga was almost dead in India. It was very little practice. It's being practiced more now because it's imported back from the West. But anyway, Shivananda knew that in the West, the way to get people into finding themselves spiritually was first through the yoga mat. So he sent his Hatha yoga professor. Now Swami Vishnu was very much a salesman, a showman. He was double jointed, so if he was giving this talk just now, I won't show off and do it, but he'd put both feet behind his head and scratch the opposite ear, you know, with the other foot and stuff like that. So he was pretty cool. And in his travels, he wrote a book called A Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga. When he was in New York, it gets picked up by a publisher, and then 3 years later, it gets picked up by Penguin Paperbacks around 1962. And it sold 2 million copies. Shivananda said, go to the West, people are waiting. This book comes out, boom, sells 2 million copies in no time. So Swami Vishnu was on the New York Times bestseller list. So then he starts giving yoga talks and demonstrations. He goes on TV, a lot of TV shows, interviewed with the Heck is Yoga. And at All Religions Conference, he meets the man on the far left there. That's Reverend Prince Hepburn, who I call the Mother Teresa of the Bahamas. Baptists don't have saints, but if they did, he'd be a saint. He's an amazing, amazing character. I got to know him, and he died in 2011. So Reverend Hepburn meets Swami Vishnu and said, you have to come to the Bahamas. You got to tell my people about yoga. So Swami Vishnu came and gave in 1966, gave a talk at the British Colonial Hotel, which is right down on Bay Street, about yoga. At the end of the talk, a woman crying desperately comes to him, and it's Mrs. Natalie Boswell, that charcoal sketch in the middle. And she says to Swami Vishnu, I'm desperate, I don't know what to do. He said, what's your problem? She said, I have a 19-year-old daughter addicted to heroin. I don't know what to do. She's overdosed. I've sent her to the 2 best addiction clinics in the world, one in Switzerland and one in California, Betty Ford Clinic. Both times she got back on heroin. I don't know what to do. I'm desperate. Swami Vishnu, can you help? So Swami Vishnu said, I'm going back to Canada in 2 days. I need a secretary. Pack your daughter's bag. She's my new secretary. So he takes a 19-year-old heroin addict from Hog Island, Bahamas, to the mountains of Quebec, the Laurentian Mountains in Valmarin, Quebec. And for 1 year, she's his secretary. Whenever she had withdrawal symptoms from heroin, he gave her pranayama exercises to do. After a year, he said, go back to your mother, go back to Hog Island. You're not addicted to heroin anymore. So she comes back, and Swami Vishnu didn't hear from her, but a year later, in 1967, he again comes to the Bahamas, gives a talk. At the end of the talk, Mrs. Boswell is there and says, Swami Vishnu, you saved my daughter's life. She's been off heroin for 2 years. She said she'll never do it again. She's engaged to be married. She's like a new woman. She said, do you have some time? I want to show you something. So Swami Vishnu said, sure, I have time. So Mrs. Boswell takes her on her yacht to this very 4.4 acres of land. Remember, that main house was built in 1895. At that time, this 4.4 acres was abandoned. Mrs. Boswell and her brothers owned all of this part of Hog Island, hundreds and hundreds of acres of land, from the beach to the bay. They were very wealthy, but this 4.4 acres, there was no running water here. A swamp had grown over where the garden platform is. It used to be a swamp. No one was living here. So she takes Swami Vishnu on her boat to the dock, which is right where our dock is now. And Swami Vishnu takes 10 steps off the dock. And this is all trees. There's no temple here in those days. There's no trees. And Swami Vishnu feels like a magnetic pull. He gets pulled in through the trees. He can't help himself. He doesn't want to be rude to Mrs. Boswell, but he has to see what's going on. And he's pulled right to this amorphous shape here. is actually a dead coral reef. And this altar is built on top of half of the reef, and this temple is here because of this dead coral reef. Because when Swami Vishnu touched this reef back in 1967, whoa, he felt like an electrical charge, and he had a vision. And the vision is this. The vision he had was that this reef is growing on the pinnacle, on the tippity top of the steeple. And he said right from there, 100 feet down, there's a steeple underground, and it's attached to a giant crystal temple that sunk when Atlantis went down. And he said Atlantans would come here for healing and spiritual purposes. That's what he said. Atlantans would come here. And I know why I'm brought here. I'm brought here to reawaken the healing spiritual energy that's already here in the days of Atlantis. Now they call the place down the beach Atlantis. They didn't pick the name out of a hat. Look up and see what the Bimini Road is. Bimini is another Bahamian island underground. You can go diving there, and there's all of these underwater ruins that there's no reason they're supposed to be there unless Atlantis was there. As a teenager, I read all of the Edgar Cayce books. There's Edgar Cayce, the American Sleeping Prophet, C-A-Y-C-E, and he said Atlantis was right here, and there's some good news. He said in 2030, in 10 years, Atlantis was going to rise again, and I hope so, because we're only 4 feet above seawater, and the ocean goes up a couple of inches every year. Who knows if we're still going to be here? So Swami Vishnu then continues with Mrs. Boswell, and they walk up to the main house where we started, built in 1895. And Mrs. Boswell turns to Swami Vishnu and says, if you teach the same yoga that you taught my daughter, I'll give you a 99-year lease on this place. So that's how we got this multi-million-dollar property. And that was back in 1968. So that's how we're here. So let me reintroduce myself. My name is Arjuna. Swami Vishnu said that the guest is God. You have to make the guest feel at home here. When I first came here, I didn't feel at home. I didn't know what was going on here. So I took on the job of trying to be the contact person with everybody that comes as a yoga vacationer here. So if you see me around, anything's too weird for you, you're not comfortable, please come and talk to me. I'm not dressed in bright orange. I won't burn you. I'm not on fire. I have a house at home. I have 3 children. I have a car. But anyway, we have to finish with an examination. Everything. If you take teacher training course, it finishes with some exam. So you have to see if you listen closely on the orientation note, because if you didn't, you have to come. You're kept back. You have to do the tour again tomorrow. You don't want to do that. You want to go to the beach tomorrow. So all right. So I said when our guru Swami Vishnu ran into us, he would always say to us, Om Namah Shivaya. What would you say back? You think? Let me try. Let's try it once more. I hear most of you. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Shivaya.
Ah, good. No one said hi Hawaii. That's good. Pass the test, and that's it. Thank you. Brent Secunda is doing the deer dance. That's the Native American guy that's doing our workshops now. Was there a question? No. You're free to go. And again, whenever you see me hanging about, I'm not hiding. Feel free to ask me anything you like.
One question more. May I public
Sure.
this?
Where are you going to put it?
I am writer
I'm
and
from Canada.
journalist
Put it on-
and
Put it on the CBC. That's the
okay.
Because this is Boswell and his daughter had died, to sell them the lease, to get us off of here. But they couldn't break the lease. They couldn't get us off of here. So the brother, instead of renting us the thing, asked us if we would buy out the lease. So we bought out the lease, and now we're paying a big mortgage on the place. So at the end of 99 years, we won't have to move out, although I'm not sure that this island will be above water in another 50 years personally. It may be, it may not be, but so now at the end of 99 years, we'll stay, but that's the future. Right now, I just give the history of how we got into it.